Sally from Miss Sallie's Cuisine here. I'm doing a 5-ingredient cooking series for the Melton City Council Learning Directory, and today we're going to make a flaky pesto chicken pasta. Our 5 ingredients today are chicken breast. So I've got a chicken breast. The recipe that you'll have access to is for 4 people, but I'm just going to do 1 today. So 1 chicken breast. If you prefer chicken thighs, I wouldn't do this with chicken thighs. It really does need chicken breasts. We've got green beans. We've got puff pastry. We've got cherry tomatoes. I think in the recipe it says vine tomatoes, but you can just do it with the normal cherry tomatoes. They're often a lot more inexpensive. And we've got our pesto. And just salt and pepper if you need to season anything. So we're going to start off with our puff pastry. I've just got one sheet for my chicken. I'm just going to lightly roll this out. So just take that blue piece of paper off. You shouldn't need any flour underneath this because we're just going to roll this out so it's a little flatter, because when it's a little flatter, it flakes a bit better than if you just use it straight out of the packet. So it should be about 30 centimetres by the width that the pastry was normally. So that'll do. So that's all it needs to be, roughly 30 centimetres. And then we're just going to use our knife and we're going to cut it in half and into 3 pieces. So you should end up, for 1 breast of chicken, 6 pieces of pastry like that. Okay, so you should end up with 6 ribbons of pastry like this. Just pop it to the side, just leave it there for the moment. And then we're going to go on to our chicken. So normally I would tenderize this a little, and I don't have a tenderizer with me because I forgot it. So I'm just going to use my rolling pin. So you'll know if you've got your breast out nice and flat, you'll be able to tell that some parts are actually higher than the others. So this is actually, this is like quite low compared to this little bit here and this little bit here. So we want our chicken to be roughly even because that will help with the cooking process. If you've got a meat tenderizer, use that. You could also use your hand if you were, had enough strength to do that, or you can just use the rolling pin. So we just want it to feel, when we have it on the board, if we feel it, it should roughly feel all about the same level of thickness. So once you've done that, just put your rolling pin in the sink so you don't use it for anything else, because when we've had our rolling pin or anything on chicken, we don't want to try and cross-contaminate in the kitchen with something else. I'm just going to turn this over onto the underside of the breast, and I'm going to get some pesto. We only need about a teaspoon. And then we're just going to spread that out over the chicken. So lay your first strip of pastry down on your chicken. So make sure that the pastry covers the biggest part of the chicken, not the smallest part first. Then take your second piece of pastry and layer that down over the next piece of chicken. So you can see here that I've got 2 pieces of pastry, and there's a little sort of gap or step for the pastry. And then you're just going to continue along like that until you've covered all the chicken like that. We're gently going to fold our pastry under our chicken so it's nicely covered. And just do the other end. It doesn't have to be super fancy. So you should have like a little present or parcel of chicken in pastry. And then we're just going to get a cooking tray and put that on the tray like that. We're going to take some canola spray. Just spray the chicken nicely. You could even put some pepper on there just for flavour and presentation. And then we're going to put it into our preheated 220 degrees oven and we're going to let it cook. While we're waiting for our chicken to cook, we're going to do our beans and our tomatoes. So the tomatoes are quite simple. Just put them onto a tray, spray them with some oil, make sure they're nicely covered. You could get the kids to do this one too because they like doing that step, I've found. And then just put some pepper on and some salt. And we're going to put those in the oven as well with our chicken. So we're going to cook our tomatoes that are in the oven for 20 minutes and our chicken shouldn't take much longer than that either. So while we're waiting for those to cook, we're going to do our beans. So just grab your green beans. For this recipe today, I'm just using 100 grams of beans, but if you were doing for 4 people, you would need 400. So just top and tail them. So I normally just line them all up like that, and then just get my knife and cut off the ends. If you wanted to get the kids involved, get them to do them one at a time, because then it's easier for them and they're not going to cut half of the bean off, or they might cut half the bean off, but they're not going to cut themselves. So just continue with this. Earlier I put on a pot of water because I knew I needed a large pot of water and it needs to be boiling. So I'm just going to turn that up to high, and I've also put salt in it as well. So our beans are going to take about 7 minutes, so I would suggest that you put them in after about 15 minutes of your chicken and your tomatoes being in the oven. Okay, so the water has boiled for our beans. I'm going to take our beans and I'm just going to pop them in here, and I'm going to cook those for about 7 minutes until they're nice and soft. So just put your beans on a plate once they're cooked to your taste. And then you need to just make sure that your chicken is ready at the same time. Otherwise you'll end up with cold beans, warm chicken and maybe warm tomatoes. So the tomatoes are also cooked. So we just want to put a couple on our plate to start off with. Doesn't matter if they're a bit squishy. Then we're going to get an egg lifter. And we're going to take our chicken off our tray. Just be careful of the pastry that you don't break it. And grab a knife and you can cut it into pieces. And at this point you should be able to tell whether it's cooked in there, and it's nicely cooked. It should be completely white all the way through. So you can either put, this is just for plating, but you can put the whole piece of chicken down on your plate and let someone cut into their own chicken, or you can just cut it into pieces. Put it down on top of your beans. Like that. Just grab. If you want to be all fancy with your plating, just put a couple of beans on top, on the bottom, and then get your other tomatoes and put those on the top. If you want to be a super decorating plate person, then just grab some oil and just drizzle it over like that. And that's your plate. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. Be sure to follow the Melton City Council Learning Directory Facebook page to ensure you don't miss the next one.